Studio 3C in Rockefeller Center, this is News 4 New York.
We're in for some bitter cold tonight and more snow's heading this way over the weekend. So that means conditions are ripe for slips, falls, serious injuries related to the weather. And Dr. Ernest Patti joins us tonight. He's a senior attending emergency room physician at St. Barnabas Hospital. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Contessa.
Are you seeing a lot more injuries related to the weather in the ER?
We are. We're getting a lot of folks who unfortunately are slipping and falling. There's a lot of ice. The wind chill's really low and the bitterly cold outside, so we're getting a lot of musculoskeletal injuries.
And especially the ice, it's been bad. You gave us a list of some of the injuries that you're seeing here. Muscle strains and sprains, you say, herniated discs, compression fractures, spinal cord injuries, tailbone injuries. I get all tongue-tied just thinking about it. The
spinal cord injuries are the more, we don't see them as much, and they're the more serious injuries. Mainly we get musculoskeletal sprains and strains, fractured bones though.
Wait, people go to the ER for muscle strain and sprain?
Well, let me tell you something. When you're older and you just twist your back trying to catch your balance, getting out of the car or slipping on the ice, many times that gives you such a bad spasm that you can't walk. So folks think they might have broken something. It's also important too to to remember that you need to be in shape for the winter.
Okay, so you're talking prevention too, because you don't want to see all these injuries coming in. What do people do to try to avoid the consequences of a slip and fall?
Well, probably the most common sense thing you can do is prepare for the weather. Don't come outside, as we discussed earlier, in your high heels, on the ice and the frozen snow. Try to wear proper footwear. Wear, clothing that's appropriate for the weather.
Because there is nothing like showing up for a black tie event wearing your hiking boots. I got to tell you.
You got to bring a bag and the high heels in a separate bag, and then leave it at the coat check, I guess. But you need to really be prepared. You also need to remember, don't overexert yourself when you're doing the shoveling, because you can also throw your back out that way. Let alone if you have cardiovascular problems.
Spark a heart attack, which you don't want. And you say even things like working on your balance, working on your muscle tone, thinking about your overall physical health is important.
Of course, you need to rest, you need to sleep, you need to eat properly, stay hydrated, take your vitamins. As we get older, you have to remember, folks can develop osteoporosis, which makes your bones a little more prone to fractures.
By the way, we're talking about slips and falls a lot, but the other thing I'm sure emergency room doctors are very well aware of is falling ice. We see the warnings sometimes on high buildings. They block off sidewalks because of it, right?
I mentioned that in the talking points as well. We need to keep an eye out you need to look up, because many times you walk out your front door and if there's icicles there, what are they doing? They're dripping water onto the ground in front of you, and you'll slip right down the stairs. A lot of private homes have that issue, over the front overhang.
Yeah, so clear that ice and snow off of the roof and the ledges and the eaves. And the other thing is you have to think about hyperthermia and dehydration.
Hypothermia, definitely. You have to think of that. That's why I said wear clothing that's appropriate for the weather. You lose a lot of heat from your head. You really need to make sure you have your hats on and your gloves as well. There are a lot of kids who go to school with shorts on, my son being one of them. So, you have to, in the middle of the winter.
I know, I don't get that at all. It seems very uncomfortable to me, but, kids these days.
Well, you can't teach them everything, but especially when you get older as an adult, you need to prepare.
Dr. Patti, thank you.
Always
and
a
thank
pleasure.
you for joining us tonight. That does it for us. I'm Contessa Brewer. Have a great night.